Hello everyone. Today I'm going to read the story about Ram's decision to send Sita to exile. Mr. Pattanaik mentioned that Valmiki Ramayana only talks about street gossips and the popular story of dhobi that most of us are familiar with, where the dhobi's wife stays overnight at some other person's house because of a storm, and in the morning when she comes back, her husband rejects the dhobi rejects her, saying that I'm not Ram, I cannot accept you, and you spent the whole night at some other person's home. I don't know what you did and whether you are still pure, so I'm not Ram who accepts Sita despite Sita being at another person's home for almost months. Interestingly, Patnaik mentions that this particular account of dhobi is not from Valmiki Ramayana, rather it comes from Kathasaritsagara and Bengali's Krittivasi Ramayana. That was new because I thought that that story, the dhobi's story, is from Valmiki's Ramayana. Let's start this chapter. It's a rather emotional chapter. Ram's decision. The gossip was at first a trickle. Then it was a flood. Ram could not ignore it. The queen of the Raghu clan had to be above blemish. Sita was not. Take her to the forest on some pretext and leave her there. Let her not know of my decision until she is far away in the forest. Far away from me, too far to protest, said Ram to Lakshman. This is so unfair. You must tell the people how she proved her chastity with fire, insisted Lakshman. This has nothing to do with chastity or fidelity, said Ram. This gossip provides people an opportunity to feel superior to the king. My exacting standards of conduct perhaps make them feel inadequate, inferior. So they strike back by mocking my choice of queen. She is not pure enough for me, they say. She is pure. She walked through fire, pure in body and pure in mind. Not sure, but pure in reputation. That stain can never be removed. Never forget the human yearning to dominate. And this very beautiful thing that Pattanaik mentions. I quote, the rich dominate with wealth. The educated dominate with knowledge. The beautiful with their beauty. Those who have nothing use the idea of purity to dominate. Very interesting point here that people use whatever they have to dominate. Wealthy people use wealth. People who are knowledgeable, scholars, they often dominate others with knowledge. And those who have nothing, they dominate with the idea of purity itself. You do have a choice. You are a king. Do not indulge this wild desire of the people. A good king must listen to the people and respect the rules of his family, however distasteful they may be. Surely, a king can change rules, impose his will on people. Yes, in Kishkindha, yes, in Lanka, but not in Ayodhya. Not as long as the scion of Raghukul sits on the throne. I will not be a tyrant. This is the verdict of the people. It must be respected. People are cruel. Do not submit to them, Ram. How will my subjects see their own cruelty? How will they learn that they operate from Aham, not Atma? They are too busy being self-righteous. They must witness how powerful they are. How they can dehumanize Sita and get Ram to submit to their will. Why must Sita suffer all this? Because she is Janaka's daughter. She alone will not see herself as a victim. As I did not when Kaikeyi forced me into exile, I can rely on her. Tell Hanuman to do it. I cannot. But I want you to. You, only you. Must the king make an order? Will the brother not obey? I hate being younger to you. I had to obey. In our next life, when I am Krishna, you will be my elder brother, Balarama. But you will still agree with me, for you know what I do is necessary. Shoulders dropping, Lakshman asked, the least you can do is tell her all this clearly and openly. Why reject her in so clandestine a manner? She never listens, snapped Ram. When I told her to stay in the palace, she insisted on accompanying me to the forest. When you told her to stay inside the hut in the forest, she insisted on stepping out. When I was rude and tried to set her free from the obligations of marriage after I killed Ravana, she insisted on walking through fire, displaying her chastity and returning to this city with me. If I tell her that she is the subject of gossip and so I cannot be associated with her, she will ask complex questions. that I will not be able to answer. It is best this way, she will understand. She has to understand. Now, reading Lakshman's conversation, I sometimes wonder that why do we see Ram as a greater hero and not Lakshmana? Lakshmana, who even made much greater sacrifice, that also willingly, without being under any oath, unlike Ram, leaving his own wife. Lakshmana, joins his brother and sister-in-law. But Nayak says that Lakshman is the voice of a common man who protests against Ram cruelty. To me, and I'm sure for many of you, Lakshman is indeed a far greater hero, deserving much more importance. When I was doing my masters and I came across this essay on many Ramayanas, that there are many versions of Ramayana. There are folk stories and plays apart from the text. In fact, there are some stories where Lakshman is the main character, he's the protagonist, and it's Lakshman who actually kills Ravana. It makes us feel good, right? That at least Lakshman is getting the importance that he rightfully deserves. For his sacrifice is much greater. Maybe that's why we need many versions of Ramayana. For no version is complete and can do justice to the whole story of Ramayana. It is a story that needs to be seen through many lenses, reread and reimagined. Let me know what you think about Ram's decision. I think this is one of the most controversial chapters and topics within the Ramayana. Many totally disagree with Ram and find it rather cruel. Some are compassionate and understanding to him that he had to do it because he sees himself not as a person but more like a ruler who had to uphold the rules of the law. Let me know your thoughts, what you think about this particular story. Thank you. I was thinking about the Sita's Exile episode and I was trying to write something, my own reflections on the whole episode. So we don't realize how much our thoughts and opinions are shaped by our ideas of comfort, likes, dislikes, as well as the environment that we grow up in. These days, with fewer forests and most of the population living in cities, towns, or villages, forests are seen as uninhabitable, wild, dangerous, and incapable of sustaining human life. But we tend to forget that for millennia, forests have provided for and sustained all life, including human. There are still tribal communities throughout the world, even in India, for whom forest is home. Going back, I remember when I was in Arunachal Pradesh, I went there for my college. I would often see old women well in their 60s carrying heavy logs of firewood collected from the forest in traditional basket that was strapped to their head. The skin on their faces and arms were wrinkled, and still these women spent hours in the forest collecting woods, foraging for other items like greens, wild mushrooms, tubers, even crabs, snails and frogs from the streams in the mountain. These days, most of us have never spent any time in the forest, a majority of us. And so forest is seen as, has become an alien, unknown and scary place. We judge Sita's exile into forest based on our own fears, forgetting that she had spent 14 years living in all kinds of wild and dangerous forests. She had become more of a forest dweller than a palace woman. What if she felt more at home in the forest? What if she longed for it? For people like us, raised in middle-class families, it seems unimaginable that someone would prefer the forest to a palace with all comforts, fine clothes, maids and servants. Or if you go by modern standards, a fully air-conditioned apartment, nice big apartment with home theater, private swimming pool, and fleets of cars. Many of us have grown up deprived of such luxuries, especially in India, lower middle class that most of us come from. It is very natural for us to desire them. We would prefer, living in big apartments maybe. But if you ask people who already have these luxuries, people in developed countries or wealthy people, you'll be surprised to find that many long to leave it all behind and live a simple life in nature. Perhaps with a farmhouse, growing their own food and doing gardening. Some would like to do, fishery, have their own poultry, grow vegetables. So for those who seek a life of comfort and luxury, a forest is an inconvenience and a scary place. But for those who want to be wild and free, the forest is home. And similarly, I believe that for those who see Sita as helpless, delicate and fragile, a civilized woman dependent on men for protection, like many the women within India, for them Sita's exile seems a cruel punishment, kind of a death sentence even. But for those who understand that Sita is not civilization, she's not a helpless woman who's dependent on men, but nature. She is nature herself, the Prakriti, what we call it, or Devi. If we see Sita as a fully empowered woman, nature itself in its wild form, then we will know that her exile is not exile at all, but a homecoming. Let me know what you think, and again, I'm not trying to justify Ram's action. Let me know what you think of Sita. You think of her as a helpless being, or do you think that the exile was a homecoming for her? Let me know your thoughts. I'm looking forward to know what your opinion on this topic. Thank you.